1848, the Year of Revolutions, was a hugely important moment in European history. From the streets of Paris to the Carpathian Mountains, Europeans took to the barricades to demand more representative government as well as social and political change. The revolutions of France and the Austrian Empire are quite well known, but 1848 has many fascinating smaller details as well. Here we will cover one, the Hackar Uprising. Our story is set in the small German duchy of Baden. Baden, along the Rhine River, had a long history stretching all the way back to the Holy Roman Empire. Starting out as a tiny margraviate in 1112 AD, it lasted as a relatively unchanging polity until it was promoted to the Grand Duchy of Baden and significantly enlarged after Napoleon's dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire in 1806. From here, Baden would be a member of the German Confederation and would exist until her annexation into the German Empire in 1871. Our real story starts in February of 1848. After rising political discontent against the French monarchy, which I won't get into here, the citizens of Paris overthrew the monarchy in the famous February Revolution and established the Second Republic. This sent shockwaves throughout the established order of Europe and would conspire to make 1848 the prophesied Year of Revolutions. Baden, sitting right on the French border, was naturally greatly affected by the collapse of the July monarchy in France. The ruler of Baden, Grand Duke Leopold, was a liberal himself and sought to preempt any revolutionary change by granting his subjects concessions and a constitution. Regardless, Friedrich Hackar and his associate Gustav Struve, disappointed by their failure to be elected to a pan-German committee, decided to advance the revolution in Baden by their own means. Deciding to start out in the liberal city of Constance by Lake Constance, Hackar planned to create 4 armed columns that would march throughout Baden. They would gain continual support until eventually the Baden government collapsed and a republic could be declared. Using the arrest of a local liberal agitator as a pretense to start his uprising, he arrived in Constance on April 11th. Hoping to rile the crowds up into revolutionary fervor at the town hall the next day, Hackar gave a speech outlining his plans and calling for volunteers. Here, things started to go awry. The Republicans of Constance said his plan was folly and refused to support him. They argued that loyalist troops were stationed all around, that it was likely doomed to failure. Franz Siegel, leader of Constance militia, attempted to command his troops to join the revolution, but the mayor blocked his actions. Eventually, on April 13th, Hackar departed from Constance. On the morning of his departure, there seems to be some sympathizers that hadn't appeared the day before, because when he left Constance, he had about 200 to 250 men and 2 artillery pieces. Marching along the planned route, Hackar gathered additional peasant volunteers, which bolstered his forces to anywhere from 800 to 1,200 men. Hearing of the uprising, General Friedrich von Gagern, commander of Baden's army, began to pursue Hackar's column on April 14th. 2 days later, Baden loyalists stood in Hackar's path to the north, and he was forced to turn southwest. Fleeing their professional forces, Hackar was eventually driven to the town of Kandern in the far south of Baden. With nowhere else to run, Hackar was forced to make a stand. On April 20th, 2,000 Baden soldiers faced off against 1,800 or so Hackarites. The ensuing battle was bloody, and General von Gagern was shot from his horse, but eventually the Republicans were driven from the field. Hackar himself survived the battle and fled to Switzerland. While Hackar's uprising was crushed, this was not the end of revolutionary activity in Baden. The city of Constance, originally opposed to Hackar, resisted the government until 1849. Hackar's associate Struve attempted another revolution, known in history as the Struve Putsch. Hackar himself fled to France and then on to the United States following his failed uprising. He would be one of the many so-called 48ers, Germans who fled to the U.S. following the failed Republican revolutions of the 19th century. He even served as a colonel in the Union Army during the American Civil War. 1848 was a monumentous moment in European history. It was the culmination of ideas that had been bubbling under the surface since the French Revolution, and Europe would never go back to the way it was before, much to the chagrin of Metternich and the crowned heads of Europe. Hackar's uprising, even though it was a failure, would still solidify itself in the German national consciousness and influence Republican ideals within Germany and Austria for years and decades afterwards. This is Just a Historica. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe.